Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the latest, the Brock Press's official podcast, where we'll take you beyond the headlines and do a deep dive into some of the most interesting articles we published this week. My name is Noah Nickel. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Brock Press, and today I'm joined by Holly Morrison, our managing editor, and Jonah Dayton, our editor-at-large. How are you both doing?
I'm good.
Good to hear. Good to hear both of you. So excited, just ready to go. That's great. So today we're going to be talking about some articles from our beginner's guide. It's a collection of articles that we as a team put together for incoming first-year students to try to help you prepare for life in Brock and life in university. So to kind of kick it off, will be with my own article, which I know is a little vain, but I did a little introductory piece in this year's beginner's guide, just kind of laying out the Brock Press, who we are, what we're doing, and kind of some new things we're up to, including the podcast, which I'm pretty excited about. And I know we've talked about as a team for a long time, but it's kind of nice that it is it's coming together.
Yeah, this was, I think 2+ years in the making. We've been talking about doing a podcast. Noah finally was able to get it started.
Yeah, this is very much Noah's baby. He had about this for a very long time, and I'm glad that we can finally make it happen.
And, hopefully we can raise up this baby well, and it does well. Fingers crossed. Bear with us as we figure this out. Oh, boy. Yeah. So the rest of the welcome kind of touches on a few things we have coming up. So we have our volunteer workshop scheduled for Thursday, September 2nd. You can actually RSVP for that now through our Linktree link, which is going to be in the description of this episode and of our podcast. So be sure to do that if you're interested in volunteering with us. You'll learn some really valuable journalistic writing skills. You'll get to meet some of our team and really just kind of set yourself up on a track to, some journalistic writing with us and maybe beyond. You never know. So that does it for the introduction to the beginner's guide. But one of the biggest pieces that our arts and entertainment editor Asenya wrote was regarding the vaccine clinic, which I will head over to Holly to give us a breakdown of that article.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. So like Noah said, this article is by Asenya, our wonderful arts and entertainment editor. It's called Start Your School Year Off Right, Get Vaccinated at Brock. We all got the emails from Brock that you have to be vaccinated to be able to be on campus at all this semester. Really done a great job of laying out the ways that you can get vaccinated on campus. You're able to make an appointment through Student Wellness and Accessibility. There's a link in the article that and then you'll be contacted with information about when you can come to the university to receive your vaccine. And I think that's a super valuable service and a super valuable thing for first years to know about.
That was a huge announcement. This article was one that I was kind of editing in between when it was handed in and publication date a couple times, at least 2 or 3 times, because the vaccine thing is just updating all the time from Brock. And finally, it kind of hit that peak, and we're all mandated the vaccine, which seems to be making the most sense. And now the province also mandated it, so they just beat them by about a week from when they would have had to do it anyways. So it's kind of nice that they got there, and hopefully they can make it work, because hopefully there's nobody falling through the cracks with that. But
yeah, I was just going to add that they had already made it mandatory for student athletes to be fully vaccinated, as well as those living in residence. So it seemed like this was just only a matter of time.
Yeah, that was my first update to the article. And then they added residents a couple days later. So that was the second update. And then finally, the floodgates kind of opened. But it is exciting and really can give everyone a bit of a peace of mind on that, which is good. What do you think, Holly?
It's nice to be able to, walk into a seminar room and just know that you have that sort of additional layer of protection, that you're not walking into a room and not knowing whether or not most people are vaccinated or not.
Yeah, like in Alberta, I saw the other day that they aren't mandating it from the province, or a lot of the universities aren't either, which is a little bit freaky, just because even that province has been pretty much at the top of the list for cases pretty much the whole time, and kind of lower on the list of vaccination rates. So that to me is freaky. And so I'm just comparing that to our situation. I'm pretty happy, with this decision from Brock. So and really with the, like you mentioned, the vaccine options that they have on campus, makes it easier for them to mandate, really, I think, and more fair, because they do have a lot of options. And they also, I don't know if this will stand with the province's order, but I know Brock had originally said to have a first dose by a set date in September, and then a second dose by a set date in October, which is also nice, giving people that buffer and the ability to take advantage of the vaccine, not clinic, but the ability to get the vaccine on campus, which they are offering as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the most important part. I do think it's kind of hard to mandate something that you can't really give out yourself. So the fact that they have it does make it an easier mandate for us as students, really, to follow.
Yeah, definitely more manageable. Mm-hmm. But moving on from the serious topic, we'll go into something a little lighter, and that's dining on campus. So, Jonah, if you want to take it away with that article.
Yeah, for sure. This one was written by Liam, our assistant sports and wellness editor, and he basically just outlined the basics for eating as a first-year student. There's your Brock card will have all of your dining dollars, your flex dollars on it. It's essentially, you'll swipe it every time you make a purchase. It'll deduct, $10, $12, whatever it is. And that should last you throughout the year. Of course, you can add on more funds if need be. But pretty much there's the two main residence dining halls for first years. There's the one in DeCue and the one in Lowenberger. Usually the Village and Lowenberger will use the Lowenberger dining hall, where Valley, Earp, and DeCue will use the one in DeCue. And that's your sort of your home base in residence. You get, breakfast there. You can get dinners there, snacks, whatever. But then on the main campus, the main building of Brock, there's the Guernsey Market, which is sort of, it's down. You really can't miss it. There's glass windows surrounding it. And that is where the new Starbucks is, which was not there previously. So that's always a plus. There's always Tim's off on campus. There's the full scale Tim's, and then there's the sort of coffee shop frontier that they have as well. And basically, Liam just outlined, again, the food options. There's also, if you know where our office is, the Brock Press office, there's a smattering of options. There's a Harvey's, a Booster Juice, a Subway, a Burrito Boys, a sushi place, a vegan place. It's called Hopscotch. And, there's tons of options. But just from experience, when I was in first year, really, you got to switch it up because you're going to get sick of it pretty fast. I'm sure Holly and Noah, you guys can attest to it. I would say variety is key to sanity. What would you guys think?
Yeah, I think there's only so many chicken tenders you can eat before you
lose
it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get us wrong. It's a lot of chicken tenders. Okay.
The chicken tenders are good.
They're good. You'll probably have a lot of them, more than you probably should. But yeah, I mean, and then there's no excuse really to not switch it up, because there's a massive amount of options. And basically, as long as we were on campus, which has now been a long time, but in those first 3 years, I mean, I was discovering stuff all the time. And really, they actually changed stuff pretty, like different companies were coming in. At least every year there was a new storefront. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're for sure. There was the pizza was new. That came in when I was in first year, I think. The secret tip in Guernsey Market, again, I don't know, who knows if it's still there because it's been like 2 years since we've been there, but they had a smoked meat station in Market that was legit good. It was like a good deli smoked meat sandwich, but they did run out at like 2 or 3 or something. But if that's still there, get it.
Oh, I got those sandwiches all they were good. Fantastic. Yeah, great. There's honestly tons of great food on campus. A lot.
Yeah.
Pretty weird.
more options that work with your meal plan than you'd think. Like you can go to Pizza if it still works the same way as but when I was in first year, you could go to Pizza, and you could get a whole pizza and like wings and just like all this junk pizza food, and you could pay for it with your meal plan, which was honestly super convenient.
Yeah, there's also a lot of dietary options if you're, vegetarian, lactose, kosher, whatever. They got you covered there.
Now, I was excited kind of to hear about the new Starbucks, but then for it to be in market for me is not the most convenient. That was kind of the kicker for me. I'll probably keep going to that Tim's in Thistle just because of the placement. It's so much more convenient along your route to classes. If you know what I mean?
Yes, I still, it's worth it, the inconvenience for me. The Starbucks coffee versus the Tim's coffee is worth the detour for me.
But there is that second floor plaza Starbucks.
Yeah, no, that one's very convenient for us. It's right above us.
And that one has the drinks.
Yeah.
So, some of the drinks. It definitely does not have their whole drink menu. But really the big thing I'm guessing is food. And like Starbucks breakfast sandwiches are pretty great. Mm-hmm. But their sandwiches I don't like because they're like pre-wrapped and they just kind of heat them up. So
there's also the McDonald's across the street from campus, which is like, if we're talking power rankings, that's number one in terms of breakfast.
Breakfast is
we're talking places you're going to spend a lot of time as a first year. That McDonald's is also up there.
Yeah. And it's literally right across the street from campus.
Yeah, definitely a lot of trips to that McDonald's after the first year. Too many. Great.
I think that's pretty much it for the food, yeah?
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's head back to Holly, because after eating all this food, we're gonna have to get active. We're gonna have to do something. So Holly's gonna talk about intramurals, another article by Liam.
Liam really did a great mix of articles here. All that McDonald's sitting. Liam actually didn't mention the McDonald's. He's a much healthier person than we are, I suppose. But yeah, he's talking about intramurals in this article. It's just called Intramural Sports at Brock. It'll be super easy to find in the beginner's guide. And he's really talking here about how to stay active while you're at Brock. You don't have to be a varsity athlete to come here and play sports. If you wanted to, the example he uses here is that if you played basketball in high school, but that you're not quite at a varsity level, that you can, come in and look at the competitive A and competitive B levels of the intramural leagues. Or if you're not that good, but you just want to have fun, there are some strictly recreational leagues. The one that really interested me, and this is actually one that I didn't know about, is that you can play in a mystery league. So you show up ready to play, and they tell you the sport you're playing that day. And I think that sounds super interesting for someone who really just wants to have fun and get involved and stay active.
Yeah, as an intramural veteran, I will say the recreation versus the competitive leagues that they offer, the sort of A versus B leagues, in my experience, is a bit of a facade, because typically, everyone wants to have fun. So what I've noticed is that a lot of the teams that are supposedly in the recreation league are a lot better. So there's a lot of blowouts, but like Holly, the example you gave was exactly me. Like I played, like AAU basketball, high school basketball, at a fairly competitive level throughout high school, and just hopping into intramurals. It was great. The imleagues.com is the provider that Liam links in his article. And pretty much it's sort of like, I don't know if anybody used Team Snap, but that's what we use for schedules. It's similar to that, if you know what that is, but one person will be a captain, and you're sort of, in charge of coordinating your team to show up for games on time. But even if you don't want to do like a formal league like the intramurals, honestly, like the nighttime pickup runs throughout Brock. I mean, I don't know how it'll be this year. It'll probably be a little different, but like it's pretty good competition. And if you want to do something sort of more fun and light, like Holly said, the mystery league is a great one. They have like soccer, baseball, flag football, pretty much everything you can think of.
As a wholly non-competitive, non-sports person, the Mystery League sounded super interesting, and it kind of sucks, and I'm kicking myself that this was the first time I learned about it. Thanks, Liam, but in 5 years, I don't know how I managed to miss it. But yeah, the Mystery League sounds super interesting for someone like myself who has no inclination to sports at all, but might want to try something to, well, like we were saying, keep active, especially after this year and a half. I could use some more physical activity, that's for sure. So that would be a fun thing if it's, if things are being offered this coming year. That sounds like a great way to get active.
Yeah, and also in addition to sort of, the sports you'd sort of like traditionally think of as being intramurals, they're also this year through intramurals starting to offer esports. So if that's something that you're interested in, also definitely take a look at that because it seems pretty fun. More universities are starting to have esports, both competitively and recreationally. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I did an article about that actually last year when there was no in-person intramurals. And the addition, like what Holly said, they'd have like Madden and FIFA and NBA 2K, but they also have some like real sport fantasy leagues. I think there's like a hockey pool that you can hop into. There might be a basketball pool as well. So definitely, if you like sports but don't want to play them, you can do it virtually or you can do a fantasy league.
That sounds great. That's great. All right, let's move it on to Jonah in kind of the sports realm, but moving across the street, literally, from Brock to Canada Summer Games.
Yeah, so this is a huge part of this upcoming school year. The Canada Summer Games, it's essentially the biggest national gathering of sport across the country. It was supposed to be happening right now, I think, like actually today, the 2021 Canada Summer Games. Obviously, COVID pushed it back a year, but like the Olympics, they alternate every 2 years between summer, winter. This year, it's being hosted throughout the Niagara region, and obviously Brock is playing a huge role about that. They're building a new facility called the Canada Games facility. There's a photo of half of it because it's under construction in our beginner's guide as well. But the good news is if you're a first year student, it'll be here for years to come. You'll have, just an extra facility for, intramurals or recreation. But whenever there's a big sport event like this, there's always a huge need for volunteers, a lot of which are going to be Brock students. So if you're a sport management major like I am and like Holly is, your email will be flooded with opportunities, which I recommend taking advantage of. There's some links in the article I wrote in the beginner's guide that were given to me by Dr. Julie Stevens, who is an advisor to the games. She's also a professor of sport management. So good chance, again, if you're a sport management major, you'll have her. But pretty much just check out the website. There's a bunch of different roles, from media to logistics to food and beverage. Pretty much whatever you can think of, you can have it. And it's a great way to get some experience. And, some of the best athletes in Canadian sport history are alumni in this event. Sidney Crosby, Steve Nash, pretty much all the big names have played in this. And it's going to be fun in about exactly 1 year's time.
Yeah, definitely something not to miss out on. And as the sole non-sport sport management major of the group today, there's still a ton of opportunities for non-sport management people to get involved, especially now, especially non-on-event volunteers, right? So when we often think of volunteers, you're thinking of on event day, helping with parking or leading people around the building or at events or whatever operations, or like Jonah mentioned, for concessions and stuff like that. But there's a ton. I mean, for an event this size, there's a massive amount of pre-game operations and planning and coordination that is happening right now. But there's always opportunities for students to get involved in those areas that are, it's sport related in terms of what you're planning, but really the skill set comes from other areas as well. And, you can find something to contribute that is it within your skill set that is not, strictly sports related, or, strictly requires a sport background at all?
Yeah, so many of the volunteer positions that are available are really going to be hospitality. Your job is really going to be, taking care of people, making sure that, people get where they need to go. People are comfortable and, safe and, doing okay at the games. So there are definitely more advanced volunteer positions, depending on what kind of commitment you're looking for. You could, for example, just to sort of let you know, I'm volunteering with the games. I'm going to be working as a media lead, and that's definitely a bigger commitment for volunteering. But you also could volunteer as a parking attendant for a couple of days and be connected that way. And it's just great to be able to get involved with something on such a large scale that means so much to so many people.
Yeah, and Brock's also hosting a number of events on their campus. They're using the residences as the sort of Olympic Village, the athlete village, and the rowing center as well, which is sort of tucked away in the Brock Athletic Complex, is being used for practice. So it really is sort of an all hands on deck type of effort around campus.
Yeah, and it's not just Brock too. It's, these games they're the Niagara Region 2022 Canada Summer Games. So there's going to be events happening, all throughout St. Catharines, all throughout Welland, Thorold, Port Erie. So there's really so many things. If you're in town in the summer, there's so many things that you're going to be able to go to. The opening ceremonies are going to be at the Meridian Center. The closing ceremonies are going to be in Niagara Falls. If you're, not really a sport person, but you're looking for a show, there's going to be so many ways that you can get involved with this as a volunteer or a spectator, if that's your jam.
Kind of off topic, but on topic. Have you guys seen the building lately?
Not in person, no.
No.
I walked by a couple times.
Lately?
Yeah.
It's crazy, eh? Doesn't it look nuts?
It looks so good.
Yeah, it blows my mind. That thing is, it's a monster in terms of the size, but it looks good. It's crazy how it just has popped up in that old parking lot area. It blew my mind to see it, especially in the photos for one, but in person, it really towers over you. It's really cool. Will be a good time when that's open and when that's happening next summer.
For sure.
Right. So from there, we can head back to Holly, a little bit switching gears to some stuff that just kind of does more with school. So I had a great article on office hours, which is definitely new. If you're just coming into university, that is a foreign concept. So Holly, why don't you explain that to us a little bit?
Yeah, so we've talked, about COVID. We've talked about playing sports, volunteering, eating. We haven't really talked about school, though, and that's pretty much, I hope, why most of you decided to come to Brock is, you're here to learn. You're here for the academics. So Devani has written an article called All You Need to Know About Office Hours, which really just, from her experience, Devani's a great student. She's an upper year business major. I think she's actually in accounting. So really just talking about how the majority of Brock professors hold weekly office hours, which if you're coming from high school, you've probably never had an instructor who has office hours before. But really, it's a simple concept. It's usually about an hour or a couple hours every week where they're most likely going to schedule a drop-in period where you're welcome to, swing by their office and ask about any questions you might have about the material, to chat about any issues you might be having. I have heard about students who are in, math and science courses who basically live at their professor's office hours because they really need that extra sort of demonstration in how to solve those problems, especially when they get, more complicated. But there are definitely, and if you can't make it to a professor's drop-in office hours, usually generally very available over email to schedule a time to meet with you. So really what I think you need to know as a first year is that, the material taught can be kind of difficult. Devani talks about that in the article. You're probably going to struggle at least once, and your teaching assistants and professors are, really just people who are here to help you understand the material. You don't need to be afraid to drop by office hours. That's why they're there. I know for me at least, this was the first year, actually, my third year at Brock was the first year that I went to office hours, and could not believe the difference that it made in my sort of engagement and understanding in the class. I was very much a person before this year, people would say, go to office hours, it does really help. And I was like, oh, you're just saying that. You have to say that. But genuinely, believe me, it does really help, especially if you're struggling, and especially if you're not engaged. It really helps you to get to know a professor as a person.
Yeah, I think, I for me, I've also haven't used it. I haven't done them too often, but I've found they're the best for just building that rapport with your TA or your professor, more so than sort of filling in the gaps in the material. Again, I guess to each his own, but I've sort of used them as more of a, networking point of view, which, has worked great. And I'm in my fourth year. I've had professors now numerous times, and, it's definitely like this past year, I had a professor bump me up a couple marks in the end, and I think we had a good relationship, and the office hours are certainly a good way to sort of build that relationship and become friendly with your professors and your TAs, which is important because they are the ones marking you.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, a SPEMA thing, because that is also what I noticed.
Yeah.
Sort of show up to office hours with like a question, and then could sort of chat with a professor about the material for a while, especially, and if you find that you're super passionate about something that your instructor is talking about, and you find yourself chatting about that in office hours, when you get to sort of upper years, third and fourth year, you're probably going to need advisors for certain courses and certain projects. So building those relationships early is going to be super helpful.
Yeah, nothing wrong with reaching out to professors in any way you're able to talk to them. Office hours is an easy one because it's literally a scheduled time that they're going to be available. But as long as you have ability to talk with them on one-on-one, I think you it does the trick. It's doing the same job. So I wouldn't, I would recommend anyone do any way they can, and, to get in touch with their professors face to face, whether that's over video, face to face, or in person, depending on how this year shakes out. So there's endless benefits to that, which Jonah and Holly both commented on. I personally haven't used office hours too much. They would, my program, political science, most people wouldn't call that the most difficult program. So haven't had to go to clarify much. But when I have gone, it's definitely been for the benefit of creating the relationships with professors and TAs that can come back to benefit you later on. With that, though, I think we're going to call it a day. So that has been the first episode of The Latest, the Brock Press's official podcast. I want to thank Jonah and Holly for being on today. Thank you both for your time and for your expertise.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.